The bloodiest war in human history didn't start with a territorial dispute or a stolen treasure. It started with a single piece of fruit and a goddess's whisper. Imagine a wedding banquet on Mount Olympus, a celebration of the gods, suddenly interrupted by a rolling, metallic thud across the marble floor. A golden apple, plucked from the garden of the Hesperides, lay shimmering in the light, bearing a 3-word inscription that would act as a detonator for civilization: to the Fairest. It wasn't a gift. It was a psychological grenade thrown by Eris, the goddess of discord who hadn't been invited to the party. In that moment, the music stopped. The wine turned sour. 3 goddesses, Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite, stepped forward, each claiming the prize as her own. But the mystery isn't in the apple itself, it's in the transaction. To settle the dispute, Zeus refused to judge, knowing that whoever he picked would make the other 2 his eternal enemies. Instead, he chose a mortal pawn, a shepherd prince named Paris, and sent the goddesses to a mountainside to offer the ultimate bribes. Today, we're looking at the divine auction, the moment Aphrodite outbid the Queen of Heaven and the goddess of wisdom by offering a prize she didn't own, the heart of the most beautiful woman on earth. This is the story of how a beauty contest became a death warrant for Troy.
Your words are tempting, goddess, but what are the consequences?
Unveil the legends.
Paris was a man living a lie. Though born a prince of Troy, he had been abandoned on Mount Ida because of a prophecy that he would one day burn his city to the ground. He was a simple shepherd when the sky turned gold and 3 towering, terrifyingly beautiful entities appeared before him. This was the judgment of Paris, but it was less a trial and more of an interrogation. Each goddess stripped away the divine veil to show him their power, and then they made their pitches. Hera offered him empire, the power to rule over all of Europe and Asia. Athena offered him victory, the tactical genius to never lose a battle and to be the wisest man alive. These were the safe bets, the paths to glory and stability. But then came Aphrodite. She didn't offer him land, and she didn't offer him a brain. She stepped close enough for him to smell the salt foam of her birth and whispered a single name: Helen. She promised him the love of the woman whose face was already a legend. In that heartbeat, the logic of the world collapsed. Paris didn't choose a kingdom, he chose a feeling. He handed the apple to Aphrodite, and in doing so, he signed the contract of ash. The mystery of Aphrodite's bribe is its sheer recklessness. Helen was already married to Menelaus, the king of Sparta. By promising Helen to Paris, Aphrodite wasn't just facilitating a romance. She was declaring war on the concept of oaths. She was weaponizing desire against the social order of the entire Mediterranean. She knew that taking Helen would trigger the Oath of Tyndareus, a pact that bound every Greek king to defend Helen's husband. She knew that 10,000 ships would be launched. She knew that Hector would die and Achilles would fall. But Aphrodite is a primal force, not a strategist. To her, the golden apple was a validation of her supreme status on Olympus. She wanted to prove that beauty is the ultimate power, more potent than Hera's throne or Athena's spear. The Trojan War was her proof of concept. She watched from the clouds as Paris arrived in Sparta as a guest, and she personally hacked Helen's heart. She didn't ask Helen if she wanted to go. She rewrote Helen's reality so that Paris was the only thing that mattered. This is the divine kidnapping, a crime where the victim is convinced they are a volunteer. The war itself was a 10-year sacrifice to Aphrodite's ego. While the men were dying in the dirt of the Scamander plain, Aphrodite was the only goddess who physically entered the fray to protect her investment. In one of the most mysterious sequences in the Iliad, she swoops down to save Paris from certain death in a duel with Menelaus. She wraps him in a divine mist and teleports him back to his bedroom in Troy. She didn't care about the honor of the duel. She cared about the aesthetic of the lover. This reveals the out-of-the-box horror of the goddess. She values passion over survival. She would rather see a city burn than see a beautiful romance ended by a sword. The other gods were horrified. Even Eris, her lover, was confused by her interference. Athena eventually convinced a mortal hero, Diomedes, to do the unthinkable, to stab a goddess. When the spear pierced Aphrodite's hand and her ichor spilled onto the Trojan soil, the gore of her birth returned. She fled back to Olympus, screaming in pain, but the damage was done. She had tied the fate of Troy to her own vanity, and she wouldn't let go until the last stone fell. There is a shadow mystery behind the golden apple. Some say Eris didn't act alone. They suggest that Zeus wanted the war to thin out the human population, which had grown too loud and too numerous. If this is true, then Aphrodite was the perfect instrument. She was the only one vain enough and impulsive enough to pick the nuclear option during the bribe. She was the chaos agent, who didn't realize she was being used by the king of the gods to reset the world. The golden apple wasn't just a prize, it was a key. It unlocked the dark potential of human obsession. For 10 years, the greatest heroes of the age were ground into the dust because one man couldn't resist a goddess's promise. When Troy finally burned, when the prophecy of the fire came true, Aphrodite was the only one who didn't mourn. She had the apple. She had proven that a single smile from the Fairest is worth more than the lives of a generation. She turned the art of war into the art of the grudge. Today, we use the term apple of discord to describe anything that causes a small argument, but we should remember the scale of the original. It was a piece of fruit that ended an era. It was the moment the golden age of heroes died and the age of iron began. The next time you see a golden opportunity that seems too good to be true, or you feel an obsession taking hold that defies all logic, think of the apple. Think of the shepherd on the mountain and the three shadows in the light. Aphrodite remains the goddess who wins by making sure everyone else loses. The Trojan War wasn't started by a horse, it was started by a bribe that we are still paying for today. The walls are gone, the heroes are ghosts, but the golden apple is still out there, waiting for the next person to claim they are the fairest. The sea foam is patient, and the discord is eternal.